name of God, Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer. Amen. Please be seated. My name is Ted Johnson, and I am the substitute priest today. Oh, thank you. We're living in the Me Too era. It started, if we could say that, with Harvey Weinstein several months ago, and it's spread like wildfire ever since. And hardly a day goes by that there isn't some new report in the news about some high-placed, powerful person who's been sexually exploiting women, usually women who work for them or want to work for them. It's a matter of powerful men using the power that they have, or giving a person a job, giving them a promotion or a part in a movie, or just being able to stay on the job they have already. And it's touched almost all areas of life. Started out with entertainment, with media, sports, politics, government, medicine. Things keep going on and on. Indeed, I wonder if there's any area of activity that hasn't been touched by this. I mean, we say it's a new thing, but as our Old Testament reading for today makes clear, it's been going on for 3,000 years. David sexually exploited Bathsheba. Now, historians tell us that happened about the year 1000 BC. So that's 3,000 years ago. Now, I'm sure it didn't start with that, but I'll say more about that in a little bit. The tragedy is that so many lives have been wrecked by this sexual exploitation. And it's not just limited to adult women, girls, gymnasts, boys participating in sports, their coaches, their doctors, exploited them for their own personal gratification in ways that are just staggeringly disgusting. And yet one thing that seems to be common all the way through is that insiders, people who work closely with these powerful people, or work closely with those who were exploited by the powerful people, knew what was going on. In some cases, it's called the secret that everybody knew. Of course, you and I didn't know about it because we're not active in the entertainment business or in media circles or at athletic training camps and so forth. So when we hear about these, they come to us as a surprise. But the insiders said, oh yeah, that's been going on for a long time, and nobody did anything about it. Well, thankfully, these women have had the courage to accuse the people who were sexually exploiting them, telling their stories to the news media, and it's been received credibly because the insiders said, yes, that's been going on. And so these women who've been exploited had some credibility. Now, the church is not immune from this. Scandals have been going on for over a decade of priests exploiting children, teenagers. This past week, Archbishop Theodore W, formerly the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Washington, resigned from the College of Cardinals. Now, the College of Cardinals elects the next Pope. high-ranking person in the church. Why did he resign? Well, it came to light that he had been sexually exploiting seminarians, young priests in the church, in the Diocese of Newark, and here in the Diocese of Washington. And most recently it was discovered that he was sexually exploiting the son of a family friend. And Bishop McCarrick had baptized that child. There were several articles written that again, Cardinal McCarrick's behavior was well known by people close to the church in Newark and here in Washington. But nobody did it. This is a bigger issue that sexual exploitation by powerful people over vulnerable, weak people is the abuse of power. And the sexual exploitation is just the tip of the iceberg. We've had presidents who have deceived the American people in order to go to war in Vietnam and in Iraq. Sometimes it seems like our country lives on the fact that our leaders, our powerful people, are going to abuse the power that we have given them by electing them to office. I don't mean to sound too cynical, but right now that concerns me very much. I have a question for you to think about. Our presiding bishop likes to call the Episcopal Church a branch of the Jesus movement. A movement. Like the Me Too movement. But what has the Jesus movement done about these abuses of power? Think about it. I want to talk for a minute about the Old Testament reading for today. It's actually a continuation of the reading that we heard last Sunday. Last Sunday, we heard about how David, the king of Israel, was resting on his rooftop, catching the cool afternoon breezes, the roof of his palace. And he got a commanding view of the houses surrounding the palace, and he saw one house with a naked woman on the roof, and she was taking a bath. And he was attracted to her. So he sent one of his servants to find out if she was married. Because if she weren't married, he could force her to become part of his harem. Word came back that she was indeed married to Uriah the Hittite, who was a soldier in David's army and was currently fighting in a battle that David had initiated. Even though David didn't go to the battlefield like kings often did at that time, he stayed home in Jerusalem, taking it easy. Well, even though he found out that the woman, whose name was Bathsheba, even though he found out she was married, he just kind of said to him, nah. And so he sent his servants to bring her to him. And to use the biblical language, he laid with her. A little while later, she sent word to David that she was pregnant. Now what do I do? Said David to himself. I know. I'll get Uriah to come back from the battlefield and spend some time with his wife, and that way people will think, and he'll think, that the child is his. And so he did that. And Uriah came back and reported to the king. And the king asked him some very simple, basic got very important questions about how the war was going. And then he gave him a present and said, hey, go down to your house and relax and spend some time with your wife. And Uriah said, no, I can't relax and spend time with my wife while my fellow soldiers are on the battlefield. I'll stay right here and sleep on your doorstep as a way of protecting you, said Uriah. Well, that's what he did, and David was very disappointed the next day when he found out that Uriah hadn't gone down to his house. So the next night he got Uriah drunk and urged him to go down to his house and relax and spend time with his wife. And Uriah again said no. Despite his inebriation, he stayed in the same place at the door of the palace. So now David was in greater bind, so he wrote a letter to the commander of the war, the forces on the battlefield, and said in the letter that the commander should place Uriah in the middle of the battle and withdraw his support so that he was isolated, so that he might be struck down and die. He gave this letter, believe it or not, to Uriah to carry back to the commander on the battlefield. In other words, Uriah went back to battle carrying his own death sentence. But he, as a soldier, would never even thought of looking at the message. Well, what David requested happened, and Uriah was killed. And here's where our lesson for today picks up. After a time of mourning, Bathsheba went to the palace and became one of David's wives. We need to say here that women at that time were considered property. They weren't considered to be people, humans. They were property, first of their fathers, and then of their husbands, and then whoever might claim them. And that's what David did. David claimed her as his property. God sends Nathan, the prophet, to David. God is upset about what David has done. And Nathan tells David a story about a rich man who has lots of sheep and cattle and goats and so forth. And a poor man who lives nearby who has only one animal, and that's the lamb. And it lives in the house of the family, and indeed is almost like a member of the family. A person comes to visit the rich man, and the rich man's obligated to provide hospitality. But instead of taking a lamb from his own flock, he decides to steal the lamb from the poor man. David hears this and thinks that Nathan is telling him a real-life situation, something that's actually occurred. And David, the king, who is supposed to protect the poor, is incensed. He's angry. And even goes so far as to say, this man who did this deed must die. And then Nathan says to David, you are the man. And then David makes a connection that he is just like a rich man stealing the only possession that poor man has. Except David stole a man's wife and then had him killed to come back. Nathan goes on elaborating on this connection between this story, this parable, and what the actions of David are. And so finally, David confesses, I have sinned against the Lord, David says. What's not in our reading for today is what happened afterwards. The child that David and Bathsheba conceived dies shortly after the child. But David and Bathsheba conceived another child, who, when he is born, is called Solomon. The famous King Solomon, the one who succeeded David on the throne of Israel, the one with great wisdom, the one who was probably the greatest king that Israel ever had. Showing that even out of negative situations, God brings good. Now, back to my question. What is the Jesus movement doing about abuses of power? Well, think about the Me Too movement. Some women have had the courage to tell their stories, and they've received a supportive response. They were expecting to be ridiculed or shamed. They felt shamed, so they believed other people looked down on them for what had happened to them. But they have been surprised. They have been the ones who received support, and the powerful people have been the ones condemned. I don't know whether you recollect, but a few months ago, the courthouse in Michigan, the judge allowed the victims of Dr. Nassar to tell their stories, one after another after another. They were powerful stories. And the judge, despite objections from the defense, just let this happen. I think that we in the Jesus movement can be something like that judge. But when we hear of someone who has been exploited by the powerful, we can be supportive. Indeed, I think we can take that a step further. I'm sure that you and I know for me, I've seen abuse of power by powerful people in different areas of my life. Sometimes it was sexual exploitation. Sometimes it was deceptive dealing. Sometimes it was cheating. Did I confront my boss when I discovered that he was padding his checking or expense account in large amounts? No, I didn't. I should have, but I didn't. Why? Because I was afraid I might get fired. Or was afraid I might not get promoted. And so I just let it happen. And I think that's the first thing we in the Jesus movement have to do, is to stop just letting these things happen. And speak up, whether in support or in terms of confronting the abuses of power. Our job as the Jesus movement doesn't take place here. Our work is not in this building. Our work is out there where we live, where we work, where we have our families, where we shop, where we do all those things. And it's those places where the Jesus movement today is most needed. We didn't hear it, but in the epistle reading for today, there's one phrase that kind of shouted its way out to me. Speak the truth in love. That's what the Jesus